Welcome to the first official lesson. Now, to play piano, we really need to understand something called half steps and whole steps. And these are actually very simple. A half step on the piano is the smallest amount that you can move with white and black keys included. And so when we're moving half steps, we're moving from key to key with nothing in between. A whole step is just two half steps put together. So we're moving from a key, two keys over, and they'll have one key in between. So we have half steps and we have whole steps. Now, as an example, if I wanted to start at this key and move a half step up, I would move right here to the black key above it. If I wanted to move a whole step up, I'd skip the black key and move up to the next white key. That's two half steps to make a whole step. Now, if I started here and I wanted to move a half step, I'd actually move up to the next white key because there's no black key in between these notes, and so that would be a half step. And so a whole step from this note would actually be up to the black key above it. That's a whole step with one key in between. Half steps and whole steps are crucial to what we're learning since we're going to build our movable shapes using them. Once you understand half steps and whole steps, I'll see you in the next lesson. Now it's time to build the actual shapes we'll be using in our songs. This is the fun part. Now, these shapes are actually called chords, and a chord is simply any three or more notes that we play on the piano at the same time. So sometimes I'll have a student press down just a whole bunch of random keys and ask, is this a chord? Technically, yes, you can slam down on your piano and play a chord, although it might not be a very good sounding one. So a chord is any three or more notes at the same time. But for our purposes, to quickly learn how to play songs, we want to learn a certain type of chord. Now, these chords we're going to count using half steps and whole steps. Now, there are two types of chords we want to learn. The first one is called major, and the second one is called minor. Major chords tend to have a much more happy sound to them, like this. Minor chords have a much more somber, sad sound to them, like this. The best songs out there use a blend of major and minor chords. Even happy songs are going to have minor chords in them, and even sad songs are going to have major chords in them. And so we want to learn both of these shapes and how to use them on the piano to play songs. We're going to start with a major kind of chord. So that means we're going to learn how to play a happy chord from any note on the piano. Now, we do this again by counting half steps. So for this example, I'll start with a C note. What I'm going to do is I'm going to count out 4 half steps from C. And that's going to be the second of my 3 notes in this chord. So I have my C, and then I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will be my second note in this major chord. Now we need one more note. We need 3 notes to build a chord. And so instead of counting 4 half steps, now I'm going to count 3 half steps from my second note. So I'm going to count 1, 2, and 3 until I have all 3 notes in my chord. And then I just press them down at the same exact time. We've just put together a major chord on the piano. Now, the first note of a chord is always the name of the chord. And I'll repeat that. The first note of your chord is the name of your chord. So this chord is a C chord because it starts with that C note. I can take that same exact shape, 4 half steps and 3 half steps, and move it to another note. And then I've actually changed what chord I'm playing. So instead of starting from a C note, maybe I want to start this shape from an F note. And so from an F, I can count out 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. And then again on top from that middle note, 3 half steps. 1, 2, and 3. Now, once again, I've got the 3 notes I need for my chord. But this time my starting note is F. And so I'm not playing a C chord, I'm playing an F chord. Let's try to start our chord from one more place, but this time we're going to start from one of the black keys. And so I'll pick maybe my D sharp note. Now, the rule is exactly the same. We want to count 4 half steps and then 3 half steps. So I'll count here from D sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from that note, 1, 2, and 3. Now that would be a D sharp chord. We've got major chords in our chord arsenal now. But like we mentioned before, the best songs use both major and minor sad chords. And so now we need to learn our second movable shape, the minor chord. Now this time we actually count in a very similar way from each note we need. But instead of counting 4 half steps and 3 half steps, we're going to flip those numbers and start by counting 3 half steps and then 4 half steps. You can think of it kind of as a major chord starts with a bigger shape and has a smaller one on top. And the minor chord starts with the smaller shape and then has a big one on top. So let's start in the same place with our C note. Now for a minor chord, we want to count 3 half steps first. So 1, 2, 3, and we land on one of the black keys. Now on top of that, we're going to count out our 4 half steps. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those 3 notes are going to give us our C minor chord. Now, just like we did with the major chord, we can also start this from one of the black keys. So maybe this time I'll pick the black key above F, which would be an F sharp. Now I'm going to start with my F sharp note and then count 3 half steps on top of that. So 1, 2, and 3. Now from that second note, I'm going to count 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Now I've got a minor chord starting from an F sharp note. So this chord would be called F sharp minor. A quick and important note. When you see a chord written out and it's just a letter, It's assumed that the chord is major. We don't need to specify when we're looking at a major chord. When a chord is minor, then we put a small m. We specify. Sometimes you may see maybe a minus sign instead of an m, but most often you'll see an m. So we don't need to specify with a major chord, and we do specify with a minor chord.